this mosaic tile as a waterfall feature for this shower valve, basically directly where the shower valve is going up to the shower head. So I think this is going to be a great feature to add to this. Just gives it a lot more decorative look. And you know, so it's the standard glass mosaics just on a mat that's on the back. But hey, give me a like when you first come into this video. It really helps out my channel, gets this video out to more people. And if you can comment, even better, and sharing is the ultimate. If you share this with your friends, it really helps out my channel. So thanks so much for anybody who's enjoying me today. And later on, if you want to speed up this, go to that 3 dots in this corner of your screen and go 2x, and you can just speed through this. You'll most likely be able to hear everything I'm saying. And I'm going to be warning you before I do any cutting of tile. I'm hoping that YouTube has figured it out where it's not too deafening when I use these saws, but I'll give you a warning beforehand so you can turn down that volume. So ask questions if you will during the live chat. I'd be more than happy to answer anything. Leave a comment below, and I'd be more than happy to help with that, with your own bathroom project. So that's primarily what all this channel is about, is simplifying the installation of this, getting you some guidance on how to remodel your own bathroom. So the first thing, as you can see, I already have my vertical wall tile set up. So I made sure I had a laser and that I set everything up on. I always recommend using a laser. So I had this already lined up and plumb, so that, you know, the figuring out of making sure that this mosaic was plumb was already done. Now in this particular feature, the way that the client wanted it, and I'm not going to argue because I think it makes it a lot easier, was to use some of this pencil trim to go on the edging of the other side. And this really does make it a lot easier because you don't have to try to get this stuff to be even with your outside tile. So when you're trying to just do just the mosaic, you know, you want to be flush with your tile. You don't want to be sticking out, and you don't want to be indented in. Indenting in always just shows like amateur level work. So using this pencil trim that bumps out, it's going to make it really simple, because then all they have to do is thin set this directly to the membrane. Now, if you didn't want to spend all this money on these pencil trims, I mean, these things are expensive. Most of the time, you know, this might date myself, but $7 to $8 a piece. So it can add up really quickly. So if you did not want to use pencil trim, there's 2 ways you can do it. You can add some of this membrane here, or use some of the Decorative mat. Let me see if I got that. No, I forgot it downstairs. Anyways, the Decorative mat that you put underneath your floor, the waffle, you can use that and thin set that over this, and then that'll bump it out. And if you need, that'd be, say, if you needed 1/8 of an inch. If you only need like a 1/16 inch to bring this out, you can just use some of this membrane on top of this. But before I get started here, I wanted to make sure that I seal around my valve. So this valve came with its own like encased housing, which is really nice. And I love faucets that have this, because you know, you can really make sure that everything's 100% waterproof, and you're not just relying on that excussion plate, because everything's going to be sealed straight to the box. You know, so what I'll do is cut this box flush with the towel after I have it installed. So this is just some weedy sealant, but I could have used some Cardi Fix, or you know, whatever good with the system. But that makes sure that that's all nice and waterproof, and then you don't really have to rely. So I mean, here's the excussion plate, so you can see how these rubber seals here, I mean, that's going to help, but knowing that this is all sealed, now I know nothing's going to leak behind this thing. Always have your excussion plate on hand too when you're doing tiling around this, because you want to make sure you cover it. The worst thing, you know, it's really painful if you try to do this and then you find out you didn't have that tile close enough around your valve. And so anyways, let's go ahead and start thin setting this into place. I'm going to put my pencil trim up first. And then what I did was, so I really highly recommend when you're using these mosaics, especially in this fashion where you're going from floor to wall, is to use a really decent thin set, a non-sag thin set. So my favorite is Ardex X77. You know, I really highly recommend any tiling project that you do that involves mosaics. I really recommend you just buy at least one bag of this. This stuff is expensive. I don't know what the retail price is, but I pay almost $65–70 a bag for this stuff. And you really only would need like a quarter of a bag to do this section. But what the non-sag quality of that thin set does is just it eliminates the pressure of the weight of this tile to slide down the wall. And it's really important with mosaics like this going straight up and down, because, you know, some of the cheaper thin sets that are not non-sag, you know, by the time you get up to the top, it might be forcing and bowing out some of this tile work. So just getting a good thin set really makes a world of difference and allows you to really speed things up.
Not to interrupt, but your mic, like for
I
the,
didn't have it connected.
yeah, sorry. And then there was a question about the niche too.
Sure. Yeah, you can see this nice detail I did on the niche here. I'm going to be doing, hopefully get into that today too to finish this off, but I'm going to put a shelf in the center here.
Yeah, what was the process for laying out and cutting the angles around?
So, yeah, good question. So what I did was first, I basically created the niche, the arch, with it. So the arch was just a matter of getting some 2x6s that I curved cut, and it was flat at the top. So starting out with the framing, I just rounded it to about here, and then it was flat right in this area. And really all I did to come up with this angle, it wasn't like predetermined. I just put a chalk line on the drywall and just kind of used that as a reference, and whatever kind of looked good is what I went with. And then I took this template of what I had for this background, and I took that home with me, and I made a smaller piece. I basically, out of Go board, it could have been Curdy board, it could have been anything for that matter. I just made a cutout of this actual shape here from the inside diameter here that was smaller than this, because you can always build up thin set to meet up with the tile on the edges. So I just made sure that it was like a ½ inch smaller at the minimum to overcome it, and I'll just fill in the tile later, just put enough thin set behind everything to move. But then to figure out all these angles, I basically had that new cutout that was smaller, you know, this cutout right here, and I used some base trim, and I just used a chop saw and cut pieces of trim until it looked good. So I got everything figured out with wood first. You know, I'm trying to figure out the angle on the saw. I'm sure there's a mathematical way to do this, but for me it was simple. It was basically almost like a 12-degree angle, I think is what it really came out to be. But I had each piece of that, the base trim all laid out, and I just took each piece and cut these on the wet saw matching that base trim. And then I used a piece of Curdy membrane. So the membrane, this membrane right here, this is going right over drywall, by the way. There's a shortage on foam backer boards right now. So normally I just go with the foam board because it's just faster. But I tell you what, it's really not bad doing this membrane either, because it saves you a bunch of money, and it's really not that much more time consuming. But anyways, I took a sheet of this, and then I thin setted all of this onto that sheet, and then I just basically hung this thing. I put thin set on and I just hung it. So like the big sheet of membrane was out to here, say. So then I just thin setted that, and then this just basically hung in place. Because trying to tile this in place and holding all this stuff up would be a nightmare. I mean, you could probably use that template that I used and set that, but it was just a lot easier having that on a piece of membrane and then just stick it up there. So still a lot more work to be done. You know, each one of these little flat pieces have to be built up on there, but that was the simplest way that I came up with it. It really did. It took me about 3 hours to actually get this all made up, and then, you know, I let it sit overnight, and then the next morning I installed it.
They want you to make a video.
Yeah, I will, absolutely. I'm gonna make a nice fast video showing
Because you did film it, didn't you?
I did film
Yeah,
every bit of it, yeah. All right, so we're gonna use a 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch square notch trowel. That's pretty much, you know, it's not always the greatest reference, but, you know, just.
Do I need to jump on our Wi-Fi?
Is it still on? Am I still on?
Now you're back on. That's so weird.
I don't know. Did that go out for some reason?
Yeah, it did.
Huh. All right, well, sorry about that. Hopefully this live video works out. Again, if you're watching this, hit those 3 dots. Which way would it be? It'd be over here. There's 3 dots on the top of your screen. You can 2x this if you're watching this later. All right, so first we want to get some thin set on the wall. So I always use the flat side of my trowel first. Burn it into the substrate. And then just do directional troweling on the actual wall here. Do you think that stopped the video?
I have no idea. We'll find out.
Alright, so you don't want to get ahead of yourself too much with your thin set. So if it's going to take you a little bit to get this stuff cut or moving over, you just don't want this skinning over. So you usually have about 10 minutes of time before you'd have to scrape this off and redo it. So just be aware of how much time you're taking to do this. But we'll go ahead and put some of our pencil trim up here. I always just like kind of back butter it. I ran out of rubber gloves. I normally wear rubber gloves, so it's a good idea to wear them. Keep this thin set from burning your hands. But yeah. So this is just as simple as always have some of these horseshoe shims on hand. You always want a perimeter, expansion contraction joint at the floor. And then it's helpful to space everything out. So we'll just space this here. So just to let anybody know who's on here, I am on all the other platforms and I do use them. So if you ever are interested in following me on Instagram or TikTok or what else is there?
Oh God, I don't know.
I know there's all these different platforms, but I'm mainly TikTok and Instagram I'm on, and I do live stuff on there all the time. So, if you're really interested in following along with each one of these projects.
OnlyFans?
Oh, no, I don't. I'm not on that. But yeah, no, I mean, each one of my projects now, I'm basically just kind of going live on all these different platforms, and so there's different stuff on there right now of this exact project. But ultimately, all the good stuff, it really is going to be on YouTube. I'll end up, really making some more better edited videos after I finish this project when I get more time. The edited, obviously the edited videos take a lot more time than just being able to go live and do this stuff. So I did this, this is an Amazon valve, an Amazon shower faucet, I guess you could say. I've been asked a lot about it, and I've always been curious of it. I don't really have a final review on it, but I was impressed with this valve so far. I really thought it was a really easy installation. I love that they actually had a little level indicator on here, like a little bubble level, and that really made it nice just to set. And again, I really like these encased units because it makes everything 100% watertight. So far I'm really happy with it. There are some cheaper parts to it that I'm not real impressed with, not with the valve, but when it comes to the shower head and the shower arm. We'll see how difficult that is to actually install. and whether, you know, ultimately I would really recommend it or not.
Dino, somebody who's watching said that a lot of people didn't like the barn door bathroom, but the bathroom itself turned out really
Oh, yeah.
nice. Yeah, that barn door was a little weird. But
Yeah, no one really liked the barn door. But, I don't know, for a master bathroom, I really didn't think it was that bad. I mean, you know, it is a master bathroom. It's not like it's the main bathroom in the house. But, yeah, I can see why. I mean, I would have preferred a pocket door, but there was just no way, you know, there was electrical, there was all types of stuff in that wall. There was actually a vanity on the other bathroom in that wall, so like a pocket door just wasn't going to happen. So that's kind of why we went with that. But, so you got to pay attention to these mosaics. It's infuriating with them now because, well, this one actually isn't too bad. This looks like it's reversible. They're starting to make mosaics now where you can't just line them up with each other anymore. Everything has to be in the same direction. But this one actually isn't bad. It just has a 3 different cut part of it.
where did this tile come from?
This is all tile shop. It's all the tile shop. So you know, and unfortunately, it's hard to tell what's, you know, whether it's any real good or not until you actually get it in your hands. I mean, I'm happy with this. You can see all the tile on the back of that. Like, that's one of the most important things about mosaics is, can you actually see the tile? And because you want to adhere the thin set to the actual tile, you don't want to be just adhering it to the whatever crap that they put on the back of it. Because I've had issues in the past where when it's completely gooped and you don't even see any of the tile, the backing ends up dissolving over time from the water, and then it just kind of lifts off the floor. So be careful about the mosaics, but again, it's really tough to tell what you get until you actually get it in your hands and order it. So with this non-sag thin set, you don't really have to do any spacers on this. It usually just holds it right into place, but if you wanted to, you can just use a couple of these horseshoe shims to space them, make sure that they don't slide down. But typically, you know, with this non-sag thin set, really makes it nice. That in there. It really does make it easy having the
You're still using the quarter square notch trowel there?
yes, yeah. But yeah, having the pencil trim on this perimeter makes this so much easier because you don't have to be concerned about trying to get this to line up with your tile. Not that that's extremely difficult. If you put Detra behind this or some of that Schluter membrane, it's not really a problem. It's just I don't have to even think about it. That's what's kind of nice about using that pencil trim. Okay, so going on the side here. So I got these little glass nippers. I'm going to try to avoid having to use the saw, but I don't know if that's going to be possible. So first, cut out some of this stuff. I'll just nip this here. Obviously you can just use a grinder. So something like this. This has a Montolit STL blade. I really like using these a lot because all of this is diamonds on the edges, so it really makes it easy. I can grind things down nicely. The other thing that I have is just a standard grinder. This is a CDX blade, or CGX I think it's called, Montolit. But I have a shop vac connected to this, so as soon as I turn this on, it turns on the shop vac, kind of reduces the dust. So. This is going to be a little tricky around here. You never really know what you're going to get into going around the valve. Yeah, so we'll just get a little bit more thin set here. I just got a little bit on this side because I can't really get my trowel in there. So it's just basically taking your time and placing them in. But again, having this thin set, non-sag thin set really makes it easier. And just know that all these mosaics don't necessarily are definitely placed properly on the mat, so sometimes you have to cut them apart to get them to work. Just use your grout clip to make sure that's well embedded. These are Montolet glass snips. Honestly, I don't think I'm going to really have to do anything on the sides of here. It looks like that's going to cover my other side just fine. So always just pay attention to your escutcheon plate. So I don't need to fill in these little corners here because that's just going to be completely covered by the escutcheon plate. So that makes it nice and easy. So I know that the first couple of mosaic installations I did with the cheap thin set you get from the box stores, boy did I have a mess trying to do this stuff. It was always so frustrating. And I would say it's about 7 years ago I started using this Ardex X77, and ever since I was like, this is definitely the way to go, because it's just like, nothing's even moving. It's just totally, really well. It does exactly what it says. It's a non-sag thin set. So. Okay. Let's get our pencil trim. It's amazing how expensive these little pencil trims are. They're basically like, what is it, $7 or $8 a piece. It's crazy. They do got, that does a nice feature. That's what we end up doing on the edging, because you'll find that a lot of towel anymore, they don't even really have bullnose edging anymore. It's just kind of, it's up to you to find the edging for it. So again, if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments if you're watching this later. I'd be happy to help you out now while I'm on this live stream here. So yeah, I'm good. Guess we'll just cut all this stuff out there. You know, the other thing about the Ardex thin set, not that I'm a salesman of this Ardex, is that it has a really long pot life. So the amount of time that you have for, you know, in the bucket. So I took lunch and I wasn't concerned about it hardening up. There are some thin sets out there, especially the cheaper ones that, you know, half an hour and the whole bucket's totally hard. This stuff, I mean, the X77 specifically, I think, you know, heck, you can have almost 4 to 5 hours of time with that in the bucket. So it really, you know, it's helpful if you haven't really done too much of this stuff, you're doing intricate work, because it gives you plenty of time to work with it. And then, you know, the one trick too is that if it does start hardening up on you a little bit in the bucket, you can just mix it again with the mixing paddle, and then we'll loosen it up and you'll get about another half an hour out of it. You can't add any more water, but you can just take a mixer and mix it up and it'll be soft again. So, you know, it's kind of important at $70 a bag, you definitely want this stuff to perform for you.
It's like dog nail clippers.
Yeah, it is kind of like that, isn't it? So just get these pieces in here down to the valve.
Use it on a kayak.
So yeah, I mean, let me see here. And again, you don't really have to buy glass snippers to do this. It just makes it easier. And this is just a linoleum knife. I know it's not a towel tool necessarily, but
Got balls doing this live, I'll give you that. Donovan Sanchez.
who said that?
Donovan Sanchez. Got balls doing this live.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put some two little pieces here because I have a feeling that extension plate might be a little too narrow to here. Just same thing on the other side here. So, you know, with the right equipment, you know, not with just the right equipment, but just, you know, if you have the time, it is kind of fun doing tile work. You know, I mean, some of the stuff with bathroom remodeling is definitely not fun. Like removing ceilings and getting all that blown in insulation everywhere, and, you know, just the mess of it all definitely isn't fun. But the tile work, you know, I don't know, I find it to be.
Have you used Go Board, and can you use a Curdy niche with it? How would you go about doing that? Curdy band and thin set?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, none of these guys like to mismatch with each other. It's kind of ridiculous, but and they're just doing that warranty-wise. Like Schluter wouldn't warrant it with the Go Board, and Go Board wouldn't warrant it with the Schluter. But yeah, I would probably recommend if you're doing a Schluter niche to use the Curdy band around the perimeter of that niche. I think that would be the best way to go, so then you can ensure that it's completely, you know, I mean, I don't think that there's anything with the sealant that would go wrong with the going against the Schluter membrane on the niche, but I think it'd be safer just using the membrane over top of that. But yeah, Go Board is definitely a great option. It's so much cheaper than Curdy board, and right now we're having a hard time getting Curdy board. So, you know, I took the last 3 sheets that I think is in Pittsburgh last week. So I don't know what's going on with that, but you know, yeah, Go board is definitely a good thing. I just don't mix everything together too much because I'm trying to do videos and everybody's just going to jump on my case about it not being what the companies would say that they, you know, you want to be using it at. But all intent for purposes, yeah. But you could also just make your own niche out of Go board too. I mean, that could be a lot less expensive for you. Just buy an extra tube of sealant and then, you know, do your framing and basically just create your own niche out of it. All you're really doing is just using the sealant to bond everything together. I mean, I know their Schluter niches aren't cheap. I mean, they're what, $60, $70 anyways. But they are quicker. I mean, there's no doubt. You can just slap that niche in and be ready to go compared to cutting it. But it might be worth your time just to make your own out of the excess. You're probably gonna have extra anyways. You know, most showers, you know, on this typical shower, I probably get 7 sheets, and I think a lot of the online retailers for Go board are selling them in 8 sheets at a time or whatever. So, you know, you'll probably most likely have extra left over if you just make the niche anyways. Okay, so then. Use your float and just press on it. Hopefully you don't have too much coming through, but if you do, it's not a big deal. Space in between each one. These horseshoe shims are really well worth it. I would highly recommend if you're doing tiling work just to order. I mean, they sell them in those little boxes on Amazon. I have it on my Amazon store, but you can get like 1,000 of these, and then you know, you can reuse them too once we're done. So these are just so much easier than those stupid rubber spacers you get at the box stores. These things are so frustrating to work with.
People agree about the Go board. Easy,
Yeah.
less expensive.
It is way. I mean, I think the contractor price is what, $25 a sheet.
Yeah, somebody said 20.
20.
Yeah.
See, yeah, I mean that's a heck of a better price than. Hell, I think if I would have went Curdy board on this, I'd probably be spending somewhere around probably $450 just for the Curdy board. So 7 sheets at 25 is, you know, I mean. 175, half the price, literally half the price. And you don't, all you're doing is the sealant. You're not doing all the banding. Yeah, you're not even including the banding with Cardi board. You still got to buy all that banding.
Oh.
So.
The $20 is probably the 3x5.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they do have the 4x8s at the distributors and stuff, but
Yeah.
you know, what's the, you know. I don't know, you're only talking 2 seams in the wall, it's not a big deal. It's just Go board has a little bit of an itchiness to it. I mean, I don't really notice it all that much. But some people are pretty allergic to it.
What's in it?
What's that?
What's in it? Is it
I have no
chemicals?
idea. There's some kind of fibers in it that just make people itch really bad. That's at least the biggest complaint that I hear about it. You know, I'm just going to take out this whole piece and fill it in later on. It's kind of hard to get those nips on here. Yeah, I'll take this one out too. I'm just gonna put a spacer on one of these just to hold that where I want it. Alright, so then this guy, cut something like that. And I know this one has a big square thing on it, so I should have plenty of coverage. Let me just grab it just in case. Yeah, so this has a big old square edge on it, so that should be fine. All right, and then the last piece here, 7 5/8. So this might be a little loud. You have to let me know how loud this is, because I really like to do more live stuff on here, and if it blows your eardrums, and I don't want to keep doing that. So let me know, whoever's on there, if this is really obnoxiously loud, or if YouTube knows how to change this a little bit. Is there even anybody on?
Yes, there is.
Yeah, just let me know if that's really super loud or not. Because I'd love to do more tile work live. I just think it's...
Well, Cole said that they love the live stuff and the sound is good, so.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to do more live stuff, because I think it just really shows... I think a lot of people are intimidated to even get into doing their own bathroom because of all the work involved, and at least if you have a reference of what the real job looks like, not the edited stuff. I edit stuff all the time. It looks like it takes no time at all, but it really takes a lot more time than what you're showing. All right, so this is about 10 7/8. I'm gonna take this out onto the wet saw. And I usually just keep this in the plastic when I have it on the saw. It kind of reduces the amount. Not that it's a big deal to have necessarily water on it, but it kind of holds everything together. 10 7/8. Let me just make sure that's on this. Yeah, 10 7/8. All right, I'm gonna go cut this on the saw, and I'll be right back. Okay, so this guy, the wet saw is still like the easiest way to do this. Let me just clip this out a little bit here. Okay, so anytime you run this through the wet saw, you're gonna get a towel and wipe this off, because otherwise the thin set won't bond to it. It kind of creates a bond breaker. And by the way, this is like the only piece that I've really ran on the wet saw in this entire shower installation was this glass. And I'm just saying that because you don't always need a really expensive wet saw to do any of this work. All you really need is a decent grinder blade and then a decent cutter. So on the floor there I have a Montelate cutter. So you have those two things and you should be able to do most of your towel installation without having to rent or buy a wet saw. Not always, but you know, depends on the pattern and everything else that you're doing. But you know, since I've gotten really good grinder blades and stuff, I just, you know, and I try to prevent on having to run down so many times too. So okay, so that I want to make sure that this covers and we'll be fine there. So that'll work out just fine. Looks like I'm a little off center. I don't think anybody's really gonna notice. It would have been nice if I was over another, this could have been over another 1/4 inch. But I probably didn't have my laser on it. Okay, then I'll go ahead and put my pencil trim on the other side. So this is day 7 of this bathroom remodel. Typically a bathroom, you know, complete gut to redoing, you know, like a normal 5 by say 10 bathroom, that's what this is. Typically does take about 7 to 10 days. So if I was doing a tub, like if I was replacing the tub and just putting a new one in, I'd pretty much be done today. But since, you know, we're doing a custom shower, it definitely takes up more time to do all this tile work. So just pay attention to, you know, how much labor is involved when you're trying to figure out what you want to do. But yeah, I mean, and that's one of the things I'm planning on putting a course together. I already have half the course created for a standard tub installation, a bathroom with tiling and everything that it takes to do everything yourself essentially. And I'll have that out soon. But you know, my main plan with this channel is to just make this easier for everybody to do these type of projects, because I'll tell you what, we're really in high demand. Any contractor that can do bathroom remodeling is probably pretty busy right now, and there's a lot of bathrooms that need to be done. You know, and sadly, I think it comes down to like a lot of these homes built in the 80s. You know, they used some really cheaper copper. You know, use cheaper materials, and you know, 30 years later now, it's definitely, it's got to go and be replaced. So I know there's a lot of bathrooms out there, especially in the Pittsburgh area, because we have such an older town, that need a lot of work. So. Again, my goal with the channel is just to kind
When
of
you say create a course, do you mean like a course on a separate website?
Yeah, on teachable.com I started on. I have one right now on the glass enclosures, custom glass enclosures. I started one. If you just go to bathroomremodeling.teachable.com, I'll put it in the link below here as well. But yeah, my plan is to build out courses, which is really just going to be an easier way for you to go step by step throughout the whole process. You know, I know YouTube is phenomenal information, and if you just have a few questions, yeah, you don't need me, you don't need some kind of course. But if you want some real guidance on how to set up your job and get everything done in a meaningful time, you know, I'm gonna have a lot of helpful links. Not that I'm gonna not do that on YouTube. I just think YouTube, you just get distracted really easily, and then you're watching all those stupid ads. because that's the way people are making money on this on this platform. So it's just harder to get the information that you need quickly when you're in the middle of a project. And so the course is the teachable course. I love it because it has a curriculum and you can just go back and forth to wherever you want. I'm not putting any ads in it. I'm just getting straight to the point. And I have it highlighted into each section. I basically break it down per day so that you can kind of realistically have a time frame of when you would be finished with the project. So I go by day of what you would want to do, and have materials and different advice, tips on how to do different things. So yeah, my plan is to get that built out so that.
Just Cole Buzzard was saying like the old channel, which like the courses.
Yeah.
So just.
It's going to be very similar to that. Very similar to that.
But it's on your.
It's going to be on mine. Yeah, I don't have, I can't talk too much about that because I'm still really, really angry about the situation with my partner over there. And I'm no longer associated with it. I don't have no way to get in contact with the people that were on that platform. I spent an enormous amount of time putting that curriculum together. So did he. I mean, don't get me wrong. He put an enormous amount of time into doing that, and he had the foresight to come up with the idea of doing that. But for me to be kicked off of it and not have anything to do with it anymore, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. It's all being fought over ownership of the content, and I don't understand it. We're still kind of in.
But that's why you're creating your own courses.
That's why I'm creating them.
Yeah.
Because I want to have control. I mean, I think if you these days everybody knows when you're a creator on YouTube and you're selling a course, you're getting access to them. You're going to be able to ask me a question and be able to, hopefully get you some good advice on how to do things. But all these channels, all these YouTube channels, whether it's crypto, whether it's whatever it is, whatever niche it is, typically they're selling these courses at a price so that you can get access to that person who has all the knowledge or has the kind of method that you've witnessed and think is a good way to go about it. So, and that's just what's so disappointing is that I know that there's hundreds and hundreds of members on that other site that I have really no access to contact or talk to. I mean, a lot of people have reached out on me on this new platform, which has been really great to see. But yeah, I just don't think that myself and your partner is really gonna smooth this over because I'm really still pretty upset about it. But anyways, that's not really the point of what I was trying to get to.
Well, Cole Buzzard said you were the only reason I watched your channel anyway, and now I am here.
Well,
so
thanks,
thank
man.
you.
I appreciate that. I felt that, I'm not a bullshitter. I've been doing this stuff for a long time. I'm not saying I absolutely know everything. I don't have all the license. I mean, when you're looking at bathroom remodeling, you got plumbing, electrical, drywall, you got every aspect of everything. And so I'm never going to claim that I'm an expert at all of these things. I'm just pretty much demonstrating what I've done over and over. I probably really have, I've probably done about 100 bathrooms, probably pretty easily. I really don't know how I counted up. I know I did 25 on the other channel. So for the last 7 years, he filmed me on 7 bathrooms. Some were my own, 3 of them were in my own home. A bunch of them were out on my flip properties that I was doing on. But yeah, I'm not trying to bullshit anybody. It's just a matter of just passing on my methods, and hopefully it helps you out too. But also having so much different content, you can be able to say, oh, that's exactly what my bathroom looks like. Like, why wouldn't you want to buy the course that shows the exact bathroom that you're in, so that you know that there could potentially be all these problems or whatever it takes to do it, whether it's the same bathtub you have or the same floor. At least you'd have an indication of like how hard this is going to be. So, and I tell you what, that's one fortunate thing for being in Pittsburgh here, is there's a lot of older homes that people can relate to with the size and everything else. So I'm going to cut this again. Hopefully this isn't too loud for you, so turn down the volume if you need to. Yeah, but I mean, you know, that other channel, I mean, it's just amazing how much that's grown over the year. I mean, it really started taking off in last November. And I'm not sure exactly why or what, but you know, I'm hoping I could do the same thing over again. It's just going to take a little bit. I hope it doesn't take 7 years, but it will take some time though, because you know, it took a long time to get that to where it is. So, all right, well, so that shows the border. I'm going to finish this section off. This isn't really anything too spectacularly informative. You know, I do have a little port here for my handheld, so that's just a matter of cutting a hole in it. I think actually where this is going to line up, I can just do a notch cut around that. I don't even have to cut a hole on it. But yeah, please subscribe to my channel. Like this video if you can. It really helps out the algorithm, and I plan on doing more live demonstrations. The more feedback I get, you know, the more motivation I will to be able to do more of this live stuff. But I think the live stuff is really going to represent what the real situation is too. So thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.